Welcome to Commander Central, episode 349, and today we'll be taking a look at all the preview cards from March of the Machine, as well as a little bit of other news in the world of Magic the Gathering. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
Gentlemen, it's good to have you both back on a show 2 weeks in a row. How's it going, guys?
It's a record.
I'm cold.
Lately, it's been that way for the last 6-ish months. Yeah, we've had a tough time getting everybody together.
Yeah, it's good to have everybody back, though.
Absolutely, for sure. Chris, how you feeling, man?
I feel okay. I can't complain any.
In the shop, hang out a bit on Tuesday, looking good?
Yeah, I
had a dog with you, too.
Yeah, so my dog had some sort of medical issues happen Sunday, so I don't leave him alone anymore.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think he's fine now, but I'm not gonna get into it. I don't need to break, all the animal lovers' hearts out there,
Sure.
But no, Tuesday I went in there to get one of the other guy's keys because he went to California for the Digimon Nationals tournament. He qualified for Nationals, and there was no one to cover his shift, so I was like, I'll do it for you. So I went and got his keys and covered the shift on Wednesday. So
very cool. And Max was in playing as well. Your brand new deck.
I did. I got to play my Blanca deck.
And it was busted.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
I wouldn't say it's busted because it's once everyone gets familiar with the rhythms about how aggro it is, because it does definitely, if it doesn't kill people, if you get stopped once, it's tough to bounce back.
Yeah, it's similar to how I play Infect in Commander. I kill one person and die later.
Although you managed to win, I think both the first 2 games you played with it.
I did, yeah. It's fun. You go from a Commander that's a 5/5, and then in 3 spells, it's a 15/15 with double strike and trample.
And you also have so many, there was multiple times, at least twice it happened to me, where I went to remove it at instant speed, and you had a Ranger's Guile or something in hand too. So there's a lot of ways to protect it at instant speed that also buff it up. This is gross.
Yeah, it's so cool, and having Keen Sense, that's the number 1 card in EDH Rec for this Commander, because when Blanca hits every opponent once it's targeted, you draw 3 cards, and you draw 2 cards, and you draw 1 card based on the number of opponents you have, and it's just that's the only way I can really refuel my hand quickly.
You are a monster. It was cool to play against. Yeah, we had some good games. See, you wound up leaving, and I played one. Or no, you got knocked out of the last game we played and packed up and left. So you missed some of the dumb stuff that I had to do to win.
That game alone was dumb. I'm surprised it kept going.
So the problem I had was I was hitting none of my card draw. So all I had was 1 or 2. I just had the couple cards I had in hand. So at one point I had to copy someone's. The last player left alive was me and one guy left. I had to copy his Wand of Wonder that lets you cast an opponent's spell off top of their. They flip to their revealed instant or sorcery. Yeah, kind of. So they flip to their revealed instant or sorcery, and you can cast it without paying the mana cost. So I had that out, and I copied that because I'm well, I need to hit a draw spell somehow. Maybe I hit one of his, and then my next card I drew was a clone that could, I can't remember which one it was, the Phyrexian Metamorph, I think. So I made another Wand of Wonder. At one point, I had 3 Wand of Wonder copies out. And then I had copied, who's the black-red commander that makes a treasure when you cast something from exile?
Prosper.
Yeah.
At one point, I had copied his Prosper and then made a non-legendary copy of Prosper. So every time I used a Wand of Wonder to cast a spell, it made 2 treasures, which gave me half the mana to activate the next Wand of Wonder, which then I would cast the spell, which gave me half the mana to cast the next Wand of Wonder. So it wasn't I was even spending 12 mana to do it. I was making half the mana off the Prospers. And I still couldn't get. He had basically no draw spells in his deck. I went through, and by the end, I had cast every instant or sorcery spell in his deck. He was out of them.
Holy cow.
But I was able to, whenever he'd play a creature or do something, I was able to on the next turn flip through and hit his removal spells to remove his creatures and then swing through. So I won with chip damage, taking him out 3, 5, 7 damage per turn for the next 8 turns or something, because he had gained some life, and I was able to remove all his creatures using his removal spells with the Wand of Wonder, because I was hitting none of my own, and so I was having to play out of his library. It was the dumbest game I've ever seen.
And that's why you should never play removal in your decks.
I guess.
It'll come
Use it
backfire.
against you in case someone plays three Wand of Wonders against you. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So, but he had a good attitude about it. It was a fun game, but just nonsense. So, if you out there and listener land want to reach out to us, talk about some silly games you've played lately, how'd you go about doing that, Chris?
Well, you can reach us on a multitude of social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can search us up on Facebook, CMDR Central. You can find us on YouTube by searching CMDR Central. And you can also find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
Speaking of Twitter,
Yes.
Dana,
Oh,
I have
boy.
a question for you.
Yes.
Here it comes.
What are your opinions on Reliquary Tower and people who don't run it?
Uh-oh. I got to hear this. What's going on here?
So
This was my entertainment yesterday.
So there was a Reddit post somebody made about how Reliquary Tower is a bad card. Should nobody ever play it? And my response I made back was like, that I think you're telling on yourself. Like, oh, you don't draw enough cards if you don't think Reliquary. Like, oh, I'm sorry that you don't ever draw cards in your deck that you want Reliquary Tower. And it was clearly, I was kind of clearly, talking trash a little bit. It was a bit of a joke. Reliquary Tower isn't a card that needs to go in every deck, and even the decks where I run it, I would absolutely be fine without it. I just like Reliquary Tower. I think it's a fun, feels like I've referred to it in the past as like a security blanket a little kid has. You don't need it, but it feels nice to just keep all the cards. But I also object to the notion that it's a bad card. There's plenty of decks that can take advantage of it, and I just don't like that. This is terrible. This is, that 3-mana rocks are terrible. You hear from people that are trying to sound smart. So I was slightly annoyed by the Reliquary Tower is a bad card take, so I had to talk a little bit of trash.
It was comical.
Boy. I'm going to have to look this up now. I'm having to backtrack everything.
And there was a lot of, 99% of the people thought it was funny. And of course, there's this guy that are like, well, let me tell you why it's a bad card. Like, all right, you dork. And then to all of those folks, I was just responding, oh, I'm sorry you don't draw enough cards in your deck to have to use a Reliquary Tower. Yeah, it was fun. So since we're wrapping up the show here in 2 weeks, we got one show left. We're not going to get a chance. Like, we don't want to have the last show basically just be like a preview of a set, but we also kind of want to talk about this set. So we're going to talk about March of the Machines, the cards that got previewed this week as kind of our last little tiny preview show, because there's cool stuff here. I'm really hyped for this set, and I want to talk about it when we have a chance here. We got a handful of cards previewed at the Magic Con Philly for both the set and the commander decks, and they're pretty cool, and it shows a lot of what the set looks like. So I want to get into that here. But first, Chris mentioned something that also got revealed in the last couple days.
Yes. What is it? Commander Masters?
Yeah.
So, since I work for a store and all that, we get these like WPN things that come in, and it explains sets that are coming up and all that stuff, so stores know what's happening. And we got ours in for this, and I saw this, and this is the first time I had saw it, and I'm like, what in the world is going on here? So I brought it up to my two co-hosts, and we decided to talk about it. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on it, because it doesn't really give us a whole lot of information, aside from that there's going to be 4 new decks, and then it gives you a couple of preview cards, such as Capture of Jing Zhao, Jewel Lotus, and the Dragon.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm curious what's all going to be in it.
So first, there's 4 pre-con decks, and those are what caught your eye, I think, most.
Yes.
Chris? So
Eldrazi
why was that?
and Slivers. I'm like, what?
So the Slivers is a 5-color deck, and the Eldrazi is a colorless deck.
Yep, and they also said there's supposed to be, I do believe it was 10 never-before-seen cards within this set. So I don't know if they're going to be in the decks. They possibly could be 1 in each deck, and then 6 cards in the set, who knows, type of thing. But just seeing that, I'm like, oh.
I would bet we get a new 5-color Sliver as the face card of that Sliver deck, just because they like printing those, and so I would not be surprised to see new face cards for all those decks for sure.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that, because I think about it, and so your other 5 colors, aside from Sliver Queen, which is obviously on the reserve list,
yep.
You have, Hive Lord, Legion, and the First, I think, are the 3 5-colored ones. And all 3 of those are extremely powerful. So unless this deck's going to be like super powerful out of the gate, they almost have to give another 5-color one as the face card to try to, tune it down a little bit so it's actually playable as a pre-con.
Yeah, I would guess that's, and they like making things flashy and sell them to you too. So like I think there's a lot of reasons.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in my opinion, you could easily put like Sliver Legion as the face card, because the land base isn't going to be what you would normally expect in a Sliver deck. This land base is still going to be a bunch of enters the battlefield tapped lands and basics, and your typical commander pre-con land base. So like I could see Sliver Legion being the face card to sell the deck, and that brand new 5-color one being one of the alternate commanders.
Could
Okay,
be.
yeah, I could get behind that.
And similarly, like I don't think they're going to put they're not going to put Ulamog as. I mean, maybe they will, but like I feel like they would much rather just put some kind of a new Eldrazi that doesn't also require you to have a crazy mana base to cast it, because all the Titans are 11 mana. So I bet we get like a smaller 7 mana or something version of one of those that's a little bit easier to cast as a phase commander in that Eldrazi deck too. But yeah, either way, though, those are very attention grabbing precons for sure.
Yeah, unless they're doing like almost just like a straight up colorless creature or something that's not even like an Eldrazi through story or something like that. Who knows?
So it's going to be primarily a reprint set, which Commander always needs. I'm 95% in favor of these kind of things. I think it's just good to get new copies of cards into players' hands, particularly because prices have gotten so high, and I think that's a positive thing. The one complaint I guess I will briefly voice, and I don't think it's a big deal. It's not a reason to not print these sets, but the one thing you always have when one of these sets happens is they're going to reprint Expropriate, let's say. Probably, because the price is pretty high. It's a good, like, flashy mythic to put in the set. They'll reprint that. I don't need to see Expropriate in a game again. And, like, there's going to be someone who's going to crack it, and they're pretty always like, oh, I want to jam this into my deck because it's a powerful blue card. And, like, there's a handful of those cards that I think are just crappy to play against that people, for whatever reason, mostly price, don't run them. And, like, when they open one up in one of these sets, they immediately jam in their deck, and that's always kind of frustrating. You always,
Agreed.
like, whenever a new master set comes out with Mana Crypt in it, you always see Mana Crypts in decks that probably you weren't expecting to see Mana Crypt. But whatever, it's not that big of a deal. People usually eventually figure those things out and square it away. And that's not a reason to not do it. I just wanted to point that out. I think the vast majority of this kind of thing is great for the player base in general, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I think the only downfall that's going to be to it is that it's going to be, the price point for these packs is probably going to be up there, probably around the $12 range per pack if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Judging off of how price increases have happened, and then now another master set. And so, I mean, it's going to be a little pricey for it, but until we get like full spoilers, I don't know if it's actually going to be worth it to go after or just go after the decks themselves.
Yeah, kind of my thought exactly. But I'm probably going to try to do a draft of it or something, or do whatever the pre-release version of this is. I'll definitely try it.
Yeah, I'd be game for that too.
So
that's the other thing I'm curious about. So it's Commander Masters, and I don't believe when I was reading through it, it said exactly how big these packs are supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm
so
not
I
sure
don't know
either.
if it's going to be like the Commander Legends pack, where it's going to be however many 20 cards in the pack or whatever it was, or if it's going to be a regular booster pack at, your 12 cards for a Masters pack or whatever it is.
I wonder if they'll do it like you did the draft for like Baldur's Gate or something. I could see that. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad to see it. So anything from you, Max, on it?
I just want reprinted cards. I mean,
Sure.
we see Sakama on one of the booster pack arts. I'm assuming that's Gulkar Gisa on the box of set boosters.
Yeah, it looks to be.
You know what? I'm good for it. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a cool product towards that end of summer that we needed a product in. So
yeah, the only downfall to reprints for me is a lot of times I don't like the new arts. I like the original arts, and the new arts I'm just like, this isn't as good as the original one.
Sure.
Well, Chris, based on how they've been printing cards lately, there's going to be probably like 17 different versions of every card.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so the March of the Machines spoilers we got. The first kind of unimportant thing I'm going to touch on, but I'll touch on it because there's some data there actually. So we're getting a reprint of the ETB tapped lands that gain you a life that we've got in the past, and at I think it looks to be a common just for fixing for draft, whatever, which isn't a big deal for Commander, except for on all of these, there's like updated art and flavor text that indicate what planes are involved in this invasion. So I'll just briefly read to all of them. Bloodfell Caves is indicating there's an invasion on New Capenna, so Phyrexians are coming to New Capenna. Blossoming Sands is Amonkhet. Dismal Backwater says that there's an invasion happening on Kamigawa. Jungle Hollow is Ixalan. Rugged Highlands is Zendikar. Scoured Barrens is Ikoria. Swiftwater Cliffs is Kaladesh. Thornwood Falls is Eldraine. Tranquil Cove, is Theros. And Windscarred Crag is Dominaria. So I don't think those are all the planes because we've seen references to other places as well, but like it also kind of is a way to use flavor text to give you a scope of the size of this invasion. It's hitting a dozen different planes, if not more. It's not just Dominaria. So like that to me is as strange as it is to like see a Swiftwater Cliffs and go, oh cool, I did that. I was like, oh wow, this set is bonkers if it's going to incorporate this many planes simultaneously.
So this is my conspiracy theory, and I want to see what you guys think. I've told a couple other people this, and they were actually intrigued with it too. But the way that this is going, this almost seems like the developers are destroying the multiverse to almost like start over. If you've noticed over the past years, they keep going back to like planes again and again and again. It's kind of gotten a little, stale. And I wonder if like they're destroying the multiverse to have like a whole redo, like a rewind, rewipe to start over.
Point.
Yeah, something like that.
Definitely something along those lines is happening. So my guess, based on the clues we've seen, this isn't a super deep guess or anything, because it's been indicated in the text that the Phyrexians have built their version of the world tree, which I think is called Realmbreaker, which is how they're getting to these different planes. So the world tree that they got from Kaldheim, which is how they're able to reach planes without being planeswalkers. And the guess that I've heard and that makes sense with all that is in the future going forward, there's going to be a lot more interconnection between planes, that they're not going to be all self-contained. So it's not going to be.
Oh, okay.
The people on Eldraine might well be aware that Kaladesh exists, and there'll be some communication between those two planes. And planeswalkers will no longer be the only way to move the story back and forth. So I think at the very least, I think we're going to see that kind of thing happen, where they're no longer going to be reliant on planeswalkers to be the only characters that like the Gatewatch has been our Avengers that have like gone from plane to plane to plane and like move the story forward. This is their way to make that so it doesn't happen. So you don't have to have only planeswalkers be the heroes. You can have, assuming the Gatewatch stays the team, you can have regular characters on that Gatewatch who are not required to be planeswalkers anymore. So at the very least, I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. I've heard some speculation that they will get rid of planeswalkers as a creature type too. I doubt that will be the case, but I do definitely at the very least like
that will bum a lot of people out.
It'll also make a lot of people happy. A lot of folks don't like planeswalkers too, so it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But I think at the very least they're going to reduce the reliance on planeswalkers as main storytelling characters, and also I think they're probably going to clean up some planes. On the other hand, like we know what the new next two sets are, and it's not called the Smoking Ruins of Ixalan, so like
that would be awesome though.
The Shattered Remnants of Eldraine. It's like so presumably, at least based on some of those clues, we know some of those planes are going to survive. But I think you're at least in part correct. They're rebooting things in some way for sure.
Which I like a lot. I know we were discussing that, and people were like, "Well, there's like no other big baddies floating around," and I'm like, "There sure is." And they're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Well, let's see. Emrakul's still trapped in a moon." Yep.
Nicol Bolas is
he's just chilling out over there. Ugin's got him locked up. If they get out, everyone is in big trouble.
I guarantee Bolas gets released in the story to fight against the Eldrazi. I guarantee they use that. That's such a like trope from fiction, where like the bad guy from the first movie winds up helping the heroes in the second one, even though he's not very trustworthy.
Yep, and then
absolutely will be a thing that happens for sure.
After the heroes win, he disappears with like some super powerful artifact or something.
Stabs someone in the back and disappears. Yeah, no, for sure. But there's absolutely a lot. Time Spiral kind of did this already once, 15 years ago or so. They changed kind of the course of how things looked, and they were doing it again, and I'm perfectly fine with that. You don't want. It's been an enjoyable run with the way they've had the Magic universe set up, but I'm down with trying something different for sure.
Yep, I'm loving the mismatch of like characters together on cards. This is what I'm absolutely loving. It's like, why are those two together? This makes no sense to me.
So let's jump into that next thing. So the next thing we have is that they previewed a handful of cards that were two existing characters teamed up on one card. So Drana and the card's name is just Drana and Linvala. Nothing else. It's just the characters' names.
I saw that and I'm like, aren't they enemies? Like, what's going on here?
when you're fighting against Phyrexia, everyone's your friend, apparently.
What is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, exactly. Or something like that?
So I'll read that card quick. Drana and Linvala, it's 1 white, black for a legendary creature, Vampire Angel. So it's just treated as one creature. Flying Vigilance, activated abilities of your creatures your opponent's control can't be activated, which is a callback to Linvala.
Mm-hmm.
And Drana and Linvala have all activated abilities of creatures your opponent's control, and you can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. So it's like the old Necrotic Ooze. It's just asking for to be some kind of a combo, but it's also an interesting card, and it's cool to see those two characters in the card. So there's a couple more of those too. Are there any other ones you guys thought were pretty cool?
I mean, we got to talk about Ghalta and Mavrin. A vampire riding a dinosaur.
Yep.
Yeah, and it looks like he's got a rope that he's hanging onto on the front of Ghalta's horn, so he can ride on top of him.
Ugh.
Yeah, this is 3 double green, double white for a 12/12. with trample, and whenever you attack, you choose one of the following choices. You can either create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. So maybe you have regular Ghalta out there too. That'd be cool.
Right.
Or you can create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So you can either make a bigger army or make a giant body to kill people with.
Yes.
That's a super fun design.
I am also confused with his art. Like, did Maverin convince Ghalta to do war paint or something as well? Because I'm not sure what's going on here.
I mean, I think he did that while he was building that house on his back. It's like, hey, listen, I'm gonna do some construction work here. I'm calling in Bob Vila and Norma Abrams. We're gonna put this old house on your back, and we might as well make you look pretty cool too. So we'll put some paint, a little bit of some racing stripes on your side.
Extreme Home Makeover Magic Edition.
Yeah,
right.
Move that bus.
Yeah. Well, and we also got, and I'll throw this one to Chris. I feel like Chris kind of probably likes Thalia and the Gitrog monster.
Yes, I heard about this card and I started, like, I hadn't looked at it yet. So I'm like doing the math. I'm like, okay, it's probably gonna be like a 5 or 6 mana card. You know, it's gonna have probably these abilities and that stuff. And then Max looks it up for me. He's like, oh, it's a 4 mana 4/4. And I'm like, wait, what? So Thalia and the Gitrog monster, it is a human frog horror. Like I said, it's a 4/4 for 4 mana in Abzan, so it's one colorless and then your Abzan, right? White, black, green. It has first strike and death touch. It says, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Yay, Gitrog monster. It also reads, creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Yay, Thalia, Heretic Cathar.
Yep.
And then finally it reads, whenever Thalia and the Gitrog monster attacks, sacrifice a creature or a land, then draw a card. So this is a force sack. This isn't a may. So It forces you to sack something off to draw a card. So you don't have your stupid combo base, you know, like what the Gitrog did, where you can sack a land at any time, draw a card, all that fun stuff. So you have to have an attack trigger for this. But overall, just everything on this card, I was like, this card is extremely powerful. Like, there is just, I can't say anything bad about it, aside from the color combination it in isn't the greatest in my opinion, but it is super powerful.
And the last one of these we got previewed, at least in the base set, was Yargle and Multani.
I don't know. Okay, so quick question for you guys, because this card has no abilities on it. It's just a
vanilla.
Generic card, but there's a lot of flavor text in here. And I don't know who is Multani's daughter.
I don't know either, actually, if that was somebody who has been referenced in the storyline. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'll read this out. Sorry to interrupt you, Dana, but I read this when I first saw it, and I immediately was like, I need to ask somebody about this.
I know who it is.
Oh, you do?
Multani's child. Oh, go ahead, Chris, and then we'll go into it.
Yep. So the flavor text says, this is just all talking between the two of them. It says, I've heard much about you from my daughter, Multani rumbled. There was a time when I'd balk at your aid, Phantom, but she has shown me the merit in Urborg's strange ways. And then Yargle's like, or something like that.
You sounded like a Final Fantasy VII character on the PlayStation.
So I was curious who his daughter actually is. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, Multani's daughter is Muldrotha.
Oh, sure, yep.
That would make sense then, why she would know about Urborg, so okay.
And 18/6 for 6 mana. The vanilla 18/6.
Well, isn't Yargle like a 9/4 or something like that?
What a nuts card. Yeah, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
2 swings still. You still need 2 swings to kill someone.
That's true, yeah. And there's no trample on it. It's just a vanilla creature. I mean, people will absolutely build it because it's a hilarious deck, but and that's, you know, if you throw trample on that, which is pretty easy to do in green. But yeah, that's what another nuts combo.
There's another one I would like to talk about.
Sure.
I really like Goro and Sataru. This is a Grixis commander, blue, black, and red for a 3/4, and it says whenever one or more creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn deal combat damage to a player, create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. You can pay 1 and a red to give your creatures haste until end of turn. This is the first commander where I think you can make dash work in commander. You benefit from playing dash.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to bounce it and then dash it again the next turn to get the value out of it. Yeah, okay, I can
Yeah.
get behind
You're
that.
constantly making 5/5s if you can hit with the dashed creature.
And the previous ones we talked about were from the actual like main March of the Machine set, and Goro Goro and Satoru are from the March of the Machine's commander decks.
Gotcha.
And there were a
Yep.
couple of those previewed. There was also a Slimefoot and Squee in there, and a Catilda and Leer.
If I can get my hands on Slimefoot and Squee, oh,
Yeah.
that deck's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
Slimefoot
Creature
and
tokens
Squee-
everywhere.
That's in Jund colors. Whenever Slimefoot and Squee ETBs or attacks, create a 1/1 Sap Rolling, and then it has a 4-mana. Sacrifice a Sap Rolling, return Slimefoot and Squee, and up to one other target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield as a sorcery.
Yep, that's Squee's ability, and then Slimefoot's ability is not quite the same as what Slimefoot's original ability is, but very similar concept to it.
Yeah.
And a 3/3 for 3, I think, is just great value.
Yeah, and in Jund colors, there's a lot of stuff you can do with that as well. So since we're talking about this goofy character team up stuff going on, top of your head, are there any particular team ups you guys would like to see? You think would be a cool combination of creatures and stuff that you'd want to see show up in this?
I thought about this, and I already told Max what mine was going to be, and
Nice.
mine's dumb, so I'll let you guys go.
I
What's
can
yours,
go
Max?
first. I'm going to go to one of my favorite planes, Fiora, which is where Conspiracy takes place.
Okay.
And I'm going to team up Leovold and Edric. Edric is Leovold's
What
spy,
are you doing? No.
and Leovold is the general. And so we're going to make it a little more fair. We're going to remove the clause that opponents can't draw more than one spell, but we're keeping everything else. So if you target my little creatures, I draw a card. When they hit you, I draw cards. It's going to be great. I want the elves just to kill everybody.
That never ever occurred to me. That's gross. That would be a cool card. Yeah.
Max, you didn't go to Ravnica with me. I'm very, very sad.
No, because I knew what you have planned, and I'm like, I'll let Chris stay there.
Well, mine is from Alara, which we've seen some, and I couldn't find which card it was, but like something was referencing Alara, so Alara's involved in this shenanigans somehow as well. I want to see Rafik come flying in, riding on the back of Sharoom.
Oh no!
Wow.
Really?
So there's already some overlap in colors, so like it wouldn't have to be a 4-color deck. You could just drop black from Sharoom, or even drop green from Rafik and have it be Azorius. But yeah, that one is I thought would be a good combination. That's seeing Thalia on the back of the Gitrog monster and seeing Mavrin in the back of Ghalta. I'm like, Rafik riding into the rescue, flying in on the back of Sharoom. I thought that would be pretty sweet to see. So that was the one I came up with.
Dana, I believe what you are referencing is there was an art piece showed off in that stream that references, like the title of the art is something Alara, so we will
Yes.
eventually see it on a card.
It was like there was a sequence of different like battlefield kind of arts. I'm not sure if those were the
It's
previous
one of the battles, yeah. It's a
the battle cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know we're getting some Alara stuff. So that was my inspiration there. And now I want to hear what Chris's is.
So I'm going to Ravnica because it is
Okay.
by far like one of the favorite planes that I'm on, just because of the color combinations
Sure.
and the play style and stuff. And I want Krenko and Niv Mizzet to come flying in and just cause all sorts of chaos. Like they're not on one side or the other; they're just causing chaos one way or another, creating tokens, drawing you cards, doing stupid stuff. I mean, just in general, I think it would be amazing just to see this tiny goblin riding on this huge dragon and then like throwing like baby goblins off the back of the dragon, because you're creating more creature tokens. And
I do remember in the Ixalan storyline when they were talking about like luring Bolus onto Ravnica, and basically Jace's argument was, yeah, because Niv Mizzet's a giant dick. So that was like basically like, yeah, he'll definitely be a good person to fight back against Bolus because he's a jerk. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
that would be cool too.
yeah, because Niv Mizzet doesn't really care one way or another. He's just whatever.
I mean, he's not a bad guy necessarily, but he's definitely not really a good guy. So no, that would be good. That would be good too.
As long as it benefits him, he doesn't care.
Exactly. So there's a couple more ones here. That's kind of the end of the team ups that we saw, but there's a handful of other cards. We might as well hit them all up. And I guess the first one I want to mention, because we've been talking about when we would eventually get it. I didn't think this would be it, but Omnath, the locus of all. We got the 5-color
Yes.
Omnath, except the black mana in Omnath is Phyrexian mana. So he's the 4 regular mana and a black Phyrexian mana. So we have 5-color Omnath, but he has somehow been completed by the Phyrexians.
So I'm curious because a lot of times when you have a Phyrexian mana symbol, they have like the text within the card saying that you can pay it as either that color or Phyrexian, and you don't have the text in this one. So I'm curious if you can still do that because that's how Phyrexian mana always works, or if you have to pay it as Phyrexian.
No, it works that way, Chris. I think it's one of those they just ran out of space on the
card.
Okay.
And seeing
Yeah, that
the
would make
last
sense.
2 to 3 sets I've had for Phyrexian mana, this is probably the one card where they felt like, we don't need to put the reminder there.
Yeah, it's
No.
a rare that the assumption is you figure it out. But yeah, it's and I might as well read Omnath's abilities. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. So kind of a variant on the original mono green Omnath.
Yep.
At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in the mana cost. So not just different ones, just as long as it has 3 symbols. If it's a true conviction, that's fine as well. And if you do add 3 mana in any combination of its colors and put it into your hand, and if you don't, put it in your hand. So regardless, it goes into your hand, but if you choose to reveal it, you can add that mana to your mana pool.
I actually really like this. I think since it's in 5 colors, this actually allows you to start playing those like 3 mana, like the 3 separate colored mana charms and other stuff like that more viable because you get to draw them easier off of Omnath's ability. And you're playing 5 colors, so it just opens up, a world of possibilities for you. So I actually really like this card. I heard a lot of people weren't too happy with it, seeing how the last Omnath was super powerful. The one before that was pretty powerful. And then this one was kind of a little bit more lackluster compared to the other ones.
It has nothing to do with landfall. Let's just be
Yes.
happy about it.
I would, and I'm fine with it being a little bit pulled back too. I don't think everything needs to be quite as pushed as the last couple ones were, so I'm fine with that. And actually, one thing that's cool, I do like the fact that it's got a black Phyrexian mana in the cost. So, like, if you want to be someone who goes this route, you also don't have to play black in the deck. You could just run it as a 4-color deck, and if there's not a lot of black spells that you find to be useful, you can just put no black mana in the deck and still be able to cast Omnath. So,
Yes.
that's a fun. It's neat to have those kind of options if you want to build a commander that way too. So. I like that, and it's just I was not expecting 5-color Omnath to be this to show up in this way. So they've definitely shattered some expectations here, but I'm pumped to see that one. So Max, any cards you want to talk about here?
I would like to talk about Heliod, the Radiant Dawn.
Good, he got what he deserved. That's what he gets for killing my girl Elspeth.
This is a legendary enchantment creature god for 2 and 2 white. It's a 4/4. It enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card that is not a god from your graveyard to your hand. And then it has a secondary ability for 3 and a Phyrexian blue mana. Transform Heliod the Radiant Dawn and activate it only as a sorcery. I love the flavor text on the front side of this card. Complete the faith, complete the god. Said by a Johnny Goldmane.
And one of the comments they made, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Max, during the thing was that's how Heliod gets completed. He isn't, the Phyrexians can't get to him, but by completing enough of his followers, who he gets his power from, by making them Phyrexian, he turned into became a Phyrexian. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was going to be my question: is how does this happen?
So that's how it happened. Because all the gods in Theros are powered entirely by the followers' belief and faith. By converting all of them to Phyrexians, it just converted. Yep. It just turned Heliod.
So the transform side is Heliod, the Warped Eclipse. This is a 4/6, and you may cast spells as though they had flash. And spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. And the flavor text on this side says, "Complete the god, complete the plane." A Johnny Goldmane.
That's brutal.
I almost wonder if this is like secretly like deep down and Johnny's like, I finally got my revenge type of thing.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, made him put him on Team Phyrexia for sure.
Well, that totally does the whole sleeper agent name for him.
Yeah.
Double duty because he was a sleeper agent for the Gatewatch and he's a sleeper agent for the Phyrexians. That's cool.
And technically, this is an Azorius commander because of the flip ability is a Azorius, is a blue Phyrexian mana. So that means this is a blue-white card if you're building commander deck around it.
Yes.
And it looks like this will be getting one of the Celestial Showcase arts as well.
Yep. And so there's multiple different.
Jeez, don't get started.
MDFC, well, there's multiple different arts for every single card, but I also say there's multiple different versions of dual face cards too. Like in the past in a set, you've just had, for the most part, either like a werewolf transform or MDFCs or whatever. In this set, there's a bunch of different things that flip, and a bunch of different flip mechanics. So there's that Heliod one that you can flip, but we also have like Jin-Gitaxias. So there's a new Jin-Gitaxias here that's just named Jin-Gitaxias, 3 and 2 blue for the 5/5 legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor. He has Word 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card, and then 3 and a blue, you can exile Jin-Gitaxias and return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you have 7 more cards in hand. And when this one flips, it flips into a Saga. So there's a Saga on the back side of it, and The modes in the saga are draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, and you have no maximum hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. So as long as this is flipped over that way, you have no maximum hand size.
So you're going to have 14 cards in your hand when it flips?
Yeah.
Because it's going to trigger number 1 right away, and it can only flip if you have 7 or more cards. Yeah, so
you flip it and draw 7. The second chapter is return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands. So that's including yours. So bounce all non-Phyrexians, and the last mode is you can cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. So you get a kind of omniscience effect, and then you exile the Great Synthesis and return it to the battlefield face up. So then it turns back into Digitaxias. So there's a lot going on in that card, and I'm going to guess we're going to get versions of all of the Phyrexian Praetors maybe like this.
I'm hoping so.
A saga on the back. That's a super cool card, and I like that mechanic a lot too.
Yes, I love it because when it flips, it's going to become much easier to remove because there's no ward 2.
Yeah.
It's like flip, you draw the cards. Okay, cool. Get rid of it now.
Yep. How about you? Any ones that you want to kind of talk about here quickly, Chris?
Not really. I think the biggest thing I want to talk about that's left, there's two things actually. The first one is the Ragavan printing in the Invention.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious about this, if this means that there's going to be more of them in this set, or if Ragavan's the only one. It caught me off guard seeing that, and I was like, oh, are we getting new ones? Is that what's going on here?
I think, is that a secret lair, I think?
Is that what it is?
No.
What is it, Max?
I don't know, but MUL is not. Usually all secret lairs are SLD, and each drop has its own number.
So maybe it's I don't think it's in the base set, but maybe I'm mistaken. But they definitely, one of the things they did was they did like this a little weird cycle where you use a couple of those old frames like the Invention and put them on a card that didn't previously have one.
Okay.
So I'm also
Give me a second.
unclear about what exactly that is. Let's see if Max figures it out.
So according to mtg.fandom.com, each draft booster and each set booster, and at least we'll have something called Multiverse Legend cards, are a bonus card in each draft booster and set booster. They don't replace any other card of the same rarity in a pack, so you can get multiple rare cards in a draft booster. According to this, there are going to be 33 of them. They're all going to be in different frames, so Ragavan is one of them, and then the Atraxa is another one.
Okay.
I was wondering about the Atraxa too, because I noticed it had the same set symbol as what the Ragavan did.
Yeah, so these are special printings of cards. Probably they all have different sets of borders, because Atraxa looks to be in that new Capenna type border.
Okay.
Oh, this is going to be gross for draft then if they're doing this. If it's one in every pack.
Well, I think it's a chance here.
Okay, only a chance. All right.
Yeah.
Still, so that's kind of interesting. So they're throwing a bunch of. It's kind of maybe works a little bit like the Mystical Archive, I would guess then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, in that card needed a reprint too. So for sure.
And then the other cards I wanted to talk about was the new Plane Chase cards that I see are sitting in this set.
So the Commander decks all come with a Plane Chase card in the Commander decks.
Okay. I saw these and I'm like, what is going on here?
So it's not going to be anything that like affects standard or anything, but like every Commander deck comes with a Plane Chase card, and you can basically ignore them if you want to. Like we used to get those oversized Commander cards in the decks.
Yep.
I think it's basically coming in that slot. So if you want to play Plane Chase, you can play Plane Chase with them, and if you don't, you don't. But it's a way to put new Plane Chase cards out there, which I also think that was super cool.
Yeah, you definitely need new ones because you only got so many of them. So
yeah, I thought that was really a great little kind of sneaky thing, the Easter egg in there. That was great. One of the other cards, there's a couple other ones I want to briefly mention here. Moment of Truth is just basically kind of an anticipate-esque spell. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those in your hand, one in your graveyard, one in the bottom of your library for one in the blue. So that's the thing we get almost every set. There's Elspeth in the art though, and it says, on the precipice of eternity, Elspeth made a choice to fight would not end without her. But there's a bunch of angel feathers in the art as well, and there's been some hints in the past that Elspeth is going to become an angel, and I'm guessing this is one more that she somehow becomes an angel over the course of this set as part of the fight.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh. And I wonder if she'll stay a planeswalker then, and we'll actually have another good angel planeswalker.
Yeah, that would be great.
She's the reincarnation of Sarah.
I mean,
that's another thing that I was wondering too. Is like, did she get taken under her wing, and that's what's going on?
And then one other weird, noteworthy thing: they brought back World Championship cards. So Yuta Takahashi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Yuta Takahashi World Championship card, and it's Fairy Mastermind. So this is a thing they used to do where World Championships could design a card that kind of had them in the art, and it was their pick. The most notable one is probably Dark Confidant.
Yep.
Fairy Mastermind, 1 in the blue. It has flash and flying for a 2/1 Fairy Rogue. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card, and then you could spend 3 in a blue. Each player draws a card. That's a really good card.
It is. I'm not so sure in Commander. I mean, yeah, maybe
Yes.
in Commander, but definitely in constructed play of other decks, like or other formats, it's going to be really good.
It's disgusting in constructed, where like if you're playing some kind of control shell, number one, having
Yeah.
flash on a 2/1 flyer is great for 2 mana, but especially the ability to like hold up your interaction mana, and if you don't need it, well then at the end of your turn, spend 2 in a blue, or 3 in a blue, excuse me, and you draw 2 cards, and your opponent draws 1, but you're drawing 2 off of that.
Yep.
It's a great.
And then you go to
mana
untap and draw
Then you
another
untap.
card. Just
Yeah.
like, what?
That is bonkers in a constructed kind of environment. So yeah, no, that's a ridiculous card. And if you're playing Blue Fairies, I feel like you're playing that for sure too. That's ridiculously good.
Agreed.
That kind of environment. So I want a quick touch on that one as well. And then we got a new Chandra they previewed. 4 red for Chandra, Hope's Beacon. She has a passive ability. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. That's still really strong for a passive ability on a
Yep.
Planeswalker. She comes in with 5 loyalty. Here's a +2. Add 2 mana any combination of colors. So you at the very least can refund your mana when the first turn you cast her. So she functionally, is only going to cost, I guess you have to have 6, but you're only going to use 4 of it if you use her +2 right away. And then she goes to 7 loyalty, which is really tough to deal with too.
Yes.
Her -1, exile the top 5 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can cast an instant or sorcery spell from among those exiled cards. And that's a +1. It's not a minus ability too. And then because of the passive, that gets copied if it's the first one you cast. So that's really, really, really good. And then she has a minus ability, -X. Chandra Hope's Beacon deals X damage to each of up to 2 targets. So you can use her minus ability to remove a couple creatures. But because she's got 5 loyalty starting with, you can still conceivably like drop her, remove the only things that could hit her, and still have her around to copy your spells and then start rolling her up next turn. So yeah, that's a pretty solid Planeswalker, I think.
It is pretty good. I was a little disappointed with it being at the 6 mana, but when I saw the +2, I was like, it's a little bit better, but not quite where I would want a Chandra at. I'd rather have her at like the 5 mana mark and maybe make it a +1 instead of a +2, but it's still pretty good for what it is. I'm just happy that she didn't get taken over, because like I heard that she got spoiled, and I immediately asked him, like, is she taken over? And everyone's like, no, and I'm like, yes.
In one of the pieces of art that got previewed, we don't know what card it's on, or I guess we know the name of the card. I can't remember what it was, but we don't know what the card does. There's definitely a piece of art where it's her confronting or fighting against the Phyrexianized version of Nissa.
Oh no.
Yeah. So and someone pointed out too, I think if you look really close at the Chandra Hope's Beacon art and zoom in, you can see like she's crying tears of fire. So I'm assuming that's tied in with that as well. So
yeah, I could see that.
what a crazy set. Anything else you guys want to talk about this before we kind of roll on out of here?
I want the story. That's like the biggest thing that I want, is like I wish that they would just give us a completed story. I know it's not going to come out until after, the set drops and stuff, but I just want to know like the whole story as to what happens, and if the Phyrexians win through this and now they're just moving on to more planes, or if they just are content with what they did in their new world. Now they have their own little section of the multiverse or whatever that they're just going to control forever, and I don't know.
I enjoyed War of the Spark well enough, and I was the first 2 sets did a nice job building up the hype for it. And when War of the Spark came out, there was a lot of cool stuff in it. It was fun. I am way more into this than I was War of the Spark. Even this has successfully got me psyched. I am not that I was like not into the Magic storyline, but this has entirely got my attention in a way nothing has in a long time in Magic. And I've kind of got that impression from a lot of folks too. Even at the March of the Machines pre-release, there were a lot of people there that were like excited about the Magic story in the way they haven't been for a long time. And there were a lot of people that I talked to there that hadn't played Magic for a few years, and they were kind of punched out. And this is what made them come back in, because they wanted to see where the storyline was going and see all these cool Phyrexian cards and Phyrexian stuff happening.
Yeah, I know when I stopped playing Magic was right around the time after like Phyrexia came out and everything with the Mirrodin blocks and stuff. And that was like the amount of people that was playing at that time was huge. And then when I came back, I was like, where's all the player base and all that? And it wasn't the same as what it was back then. So I'm not surprised that people are coming back because everyone loved that era of Magic.
Yeah, it just feels like it's hitting a lot. It's hitting a lot of nostalgic beats. It's interesting, like you said. It's maybe shaking things up in the multiverse in an interesting way moving forward. That's also pretty fascinating. There's just a lot that's got me very, very excited for this next phase of Magic moving forward. How about you, Max? What are your thoughts on all this?
I just want to see the Phyrexians win.
You're
Well,
a monster.
I am.
I'm really curious how they're going to satisfactorily wrap it up. And I remember when we left.
They're going to kill Jace. That's how
yeah,
they're going to do it.
maybe.
No, it
when
was all a vision. It was all a vision from way back when Jace was training with Alhamret. This is all it is.
it's all in his head.
Oh, don't do that. Oh my, I would lose it.
So I do remember when we left Infinity War, Max. We're like, I
Yep.
don't have any idea how they're going to roll this back and how they're going to like bring this to a satisfactory conclusion and have the good guys win and have it make sense. And then of course Endgame came out and like successfully did everything that you wanted it to do. So I'm really hoping it does an Endgame and like wraps it up and puts a bow on things in a way that it looks like I don't understand how they're going to do it. And
Oh, I know
really
how it's
wanna
going to
see-
be. Gandalf's going to show up with the one ring of power.
Now I'm out.
Good call,
done.
Chris. That's what it is.
'Cause
That leads
That
into
comes out this year too, doesn't it?
Gandalf
November.
comes in riding on the back of Optimus Prime. That's what you have. That's your team up card, Gandalf and Optimus Prime, and that's what.
You want to see people stop playing Magic? They would stop right then and
Listen,
there. They're like,
I
no, we're
don't
done.
I think that is a perfect time to segue out of here, folks. Thank you very much for listening to episode 349. We'll be back in 2 weeks with episode 350, our final episode. We're kind of sad, but also it's exciting to be able to put a bow on all of this as well at the kind of the same time Magic's wrapping up this storyline. So until then, I'm Dana. You can find me on Twitter at Dana Roach. You can find Max at CMDRCentral_Max. And you can find Chris at WiseSquishy1. Our show is edited by Rafael Garcia. You can find them on Twitter at Ursa Bearwalker. And our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod. Until then, I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.